Malice to Gloom, Champions to Sages, Sheikah to Zonai. Tears of the Kingdom is just looking like a remix of Breath of the Wild. But is that actually the right mindset? Or is this what Zelda has always been? There are a lot of similarities between these two games because this is a sequel. Let's tackle that first point. Malice versus Gloom. Chronoflation's comment over here says we're basically just swapping it. It's a remix scaled up version. I think there's a distinct difference between the Gloom in this game and the Malice in the previous game, and it's how they handle the inciting incident and what goes on afterwards. Calamity Ganon's Malice that possessed all the Guardians and the Divine Beasts in the original game happened before we got control of our character. Yes, it's the inciting incident for this story background, the lore of what happened to Hyrule, but it's not really what made us start the game. At the very beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda and Link are investigating the gloom that is leaking out from underneath the castle and making people sick. Through this investigation, we awaken Ganondorf and everything goes to crap, of course. Which leads Zelda to going to the past timeline, us staying here, getting hurt and revived by Rauru. So I can see where this comment's coming from because they are similar. Ganondorf's gloom is coming out. It's his power, just like the Malice from Calamity Ganon corrupted things. We're both getting this corruption, it's both powers. But I think the gloom has more of a significant impact on the story, but it also goes beyond that, where it actually has a gameplay element to it. The effects of gloom actually hurt Link in this game. Those freaking hard phantom hands that come out create gloom, and that slows us down. We also have it incorporated into some boss fights, and I think this integration is more than just a remix. This is an expansion on that idea, especially with it being interwoven. But let's look at it as a whole. All those things, the Sheikah tech is gone, the Zonai tech, swapping champions to sages. I got news for you. You ever seen Death Mountain before in another Zelda game?
You can't keep getting away with it!
How many times have you gone to a water temple? Hey, there's that Master Sword again. The storyline elements repeat themselves in Zelda games. It's almost like the structure is a comfort to this style of game. So I really don't see any difference between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom when I compare, let's say, Ocarina of Time compared to Twilight Princess. There is a lot of similarities in the background and what you're doing in the game. I don't find that to be a knock against this being a bad sequel. I just think that's Zelda as a whole. But there's a lot of more points we got to get to. I'm going to not go through every single one that you've so generously commented on. And even more stuff here. Look at that. But let's go with this one. The majority of the rewards are the same. I mean, I don't know what to tell you because we always got bombs. We used to get the hook shot, arrows before in the past as rewards. Heart pieces get us more life. That has been a staple for my entire time of playing the Zelda games. And again, I don't see how that makes it a bad sequel. It's a sense of familiarity. There's still different rewards, but there are some similar ones. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Many NPCs don't recognize Link. I do agree with this one. I do think more of them should recognize him. Even if Link has the sick new long hair look and the weird arm, that might throw some people off, a little confusing, but they probably should recognize him still. We did get some, a lot of the past NPC characters do recognize him. There should have been a more higher frequency of this, but if we're talking about this as a bad sequel, I don't think this makes it a bad sequel. This just shows that time has passed, some people have moved on, and some people forget other people. I don't know. So, look at this guy. Can you tell they're the same person? Most fixes are just really bandages. Chronoflation brings up the point that the Octoroks are more of a durability fix than the actual fusion ability. I disagree with that, but I can see where you're coming from. They also reference the blacksmith from Age of Calamity and be able to use repairing. I don't agree with this because I am a weapon durability sympathizer. I think it makes you experiment and explore more. Having to constantly think about weapons breaking and obtaining new ones keeps it fresh for me. Plus, the fusing is so fun. The amount of experimentation and different weapon combos again and forces you to search this world. Even though it's the same world, knowing that this is a sequel, they kept the weapon durability but added the fuse and added all the different variations of it. That to me is expanding, not remixing, adding on to what was given before. That's exactly what you want from a sequel. So to me, this is not a bandage. This is just them doubling down on what they thought was a good reason to go out and explore the world, but even making it better. And knowing that I could put random stuff on my shield now too, like, it just opens up the gameplay so much more. And they do say, quote, that would have alleviated the issue many people still have with durability. I don't think any gameplay aspect is going to be universally loved. And this is a very divisive one. And the developers doubled down, but they made a story reason behind it, which I think is very cool. Again, tying into the gloom and the corruption of everything. It's not a problem to me, but I can see how it's a problem to other people. But I don't think that makes Tears of the Kingdom a bad sequel. And that's the crux of all this. That's what you said. Quote, honestly, this video doesn't really challenge the aspects of this game that makes it feel like a bad sequel. It covers some of the stuff that people use to argue it's a bad game, but not so much of a bad sequel. Most of these examples I don't believe that you're giving me are much different than what I covered in my previous video. But that's okay, because I'm still going to go through this and we're still going to do a back and forth. Well, you can comment again if you want. Some areas of the map were clearly designed with Guardians in mind, and they feel empty and without personality or anything interesting without them. Thankfully, I never got this feeling. Plus, how I see it, instead of the Guardians, we got our Gleeoks, and I'm totally okay with that. That seems like a worthy sequel amp up for the missing Guardian threats. I do like that they acknowledge that Ultra Hand from my previous video talking about the abilities does change things up, but they said if you don't like Ultra Hand, the game loop is largely the same and only superficially different. That's an understatement. Ascend is crazy in how you use in this game. I mean, I cheesed my way through the fire dungeon by just using Ascend to go up instead of using the mine carts, and I thought it was great. I kept getting lost. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and climb up the temple sides and use my little pinpoint accuracy of using Ascend and getting inside. And it worked out beautifully. I think the fusion ability itself changes the gameplay dramatically. The experimentation, even without Ultra Hand and all the building stuff, is still wildly different than Breath of the Wild. Not to mention the huge factor of the dungeons in this game. The sprawling lead-ups to these intense dungeons, they are so much different than the previous game. I just think about going to the Wind Temple in this game and going up all those ships, getting higher and higher and higher. That is completely different. I don't think that's a very small, minimal change. If you watched the last video, which I know you did because you did all these comments, you saw me talk about the lead up to the Water Temple. The amount of things you have to do to just unlock the temple itself adds to the whole experience. And we didn't have that in Breath of the Wild. Are you still going to shrines? Yes. Are you still collecting hearts? Yes. But you know what? Just like before, we were going to the Fire Temple, Water Temple, Death Mountain. We were finding the Triforce sometimes. Getting lost in woods. This is just what happens. It doesn't make it a bad sequel, though. Can it turn off people from personal preference? Absolutely. They also go on to mention in a separate comment about using stasis to turn a rock into a rocket. Now that feels like breaking the game the best way, where they feel like Ultra Hand is just what you're supposed to do. I go back to my previous example of the Fire Temple. I don't think you're supposed to use Ascend how I did. So you can still do that in this game. Yeah, Breath of the Wild was more about the sandbox and physical effects, but you still have that here, and I think you can do a lot of crazy stuff that the game doesn't always tell you. I think there's still plenty of ways to solve these puzzles or traverse the world in general than one set way to solve anything. So I think that's just another way to look at the game. It's still the same style, but the focus has shifted. So we definitely did not agree with everything together, and that's okay. I did agree with the NPC thing. That I think is the strongest point you have elaborated on. And that's what this whole entire video has been about, is elaborate on whether or not Tears of the Kingdom is a bad sequel. This is number 2 video. I don't plan on doing a number 3, but you never know. Maybe you'll comment below and I'll be like, whoa, yeah, that's a lot of good points. Should I talk about that now? Or maybe there's another game I should be talking about. Yeah, but I'm fine either way. Like and subscribe, but also you should watch this video if you want more Tears of the Kingdom.